Here's another project that I worked on a few years ago. I just did like a jacket redesign for the Elden Ring vinyl collection. This all started when I pre-ordered the actual vinyl collection and it never came. They did at least reimburse me, but I was really excited. The art on the jackets seemed cool. I figured I'd like the music because I think this was a pre-order before the game came out. And yeah, it never showed up. And so I took that as a challenge to make my own design of the sort of box that holds all the jackets. It's nice. It's very simple, but I thought, hey, why not? Why not go in a wholly different direction? I'll take this as a sort of design challenge for myself and make something a lot more, bombastic and stylized. I had just received my Deathloop album cover actually at the time, and each of the jackets had a nice, primary color with a figure highlighted, and the whole thing was very stylized. And obviously, that game's a bit more bombastic than Elden Ring, but I figured, again, this is just for fun. Why not get a little bit crazy and kind of do the same thing? Take like a strong primary color, maybe have something offsetting secondary, and find some elements in Elden Ring that could fit the musical themes of the album cover rather than it just being a bunch of rings put together. And so I start off with Radagon. Obviously, he's got the big hammer. There's the intro of him, and he's kind of slamming down on like a rock or something when he's talking about the shattering of the Elden Ring. So I thought it'd be cool to have it be like a drum or something like that, and he's got his mace and he's slamming that mace on the drum, doing the actual shattering. You see this kind of symbol a lot in Elden Ring, this sort of crescent shape. I thought that it would give a good sense of movement and weight to the swing and to the slam of the mace on the drum. And then I also wanted to give it a bunch of arcs, right? Arcs of energy, basically giving the hammer a follow through. You can see when I had my initial sketch, or actually this is a refined sketch. The initial sketch was much rougher than this. But I know I wanted some trails or something like that, and then I wanted some rocks flying off in different directions to give it that sense of weight and impact. I think originally, if we go over to my color explorations, I did have ideas of coloring him a lot more true to his character, right? But then I liked the idea of having a brilliant flash of light coming off the drum, lighting him up. And then I did a lot of color variations. Again, I kind of looked at the Deathloop ones for inspiration because it's going to be the music, right? I'm trying to think of, I want it to be attention grabbing. The music is going to be loud and bombastic, and so why not just go crazy with the color schemes? I had a classic purple and yellow color scheme. I think I had a red and green that maybe isn't on here, but yeah, I played around with a bunch of different ones. This one had the more toned down orange when I wanted to keep it a little bit more toned down at first, and then again colors a little truer to Radagon. But I finally settled on this one. I thought it was a cool idea to just have the color fill his body, and then whatever secondary color I wanted to use, have that be what's shining and illuminating his form. And so we go back to the finished version, and yeah, you can just see there's just splashes of yellow highlighting everything, and then again, that is a big color. As a part of his actual character, you see the cracks of yellow, and the Elden Ring rings themselves being yellow. So I thought that was a good idea to have the cracks emanating with power coming out of the drum, and then also it's kind of coursing, right, following up through his wrist, through his arm, into his back and his body, and then you can see the, Elden Ring power symbol in his body right here. And he's in this rocky sort of environment. He's got the floating rock arm, and so that's why I chose to have I know I wanted some sort of debris or shrapnel, so that's really the only thing that isn't bright red or yellow essentially. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I thought it was a fun way to hey, you're doing an album cover for music again. Why not just get crazy with it? Have something that really juxtaposes the vibe of Elden Ring itself for your album cover, right? Treat it we're gonna, instead of just taking concept art that exists for the game, let's just make a ground up, a music themed aesthetic for the Elden Ring cover. So yeah, with this one, actually you can see the Elden Ring symbol itself very faintly here in the background. And looking at the jacket, I did like the idea of this decorative border, right? You kind of see some of the shape language throughout the game. And so I decided to just kind of give it my own little squiggles as a border. So if this was mocked up, onto this, you could still have the cool art, the stylized artwork, but then have it be bordered by some of the Elden Ring rune symbol stuff going on. Overall, I like the shape language. I like that I have Radagon's hair, right? His braid is kind of arcing and mimicking these energy arcs that he's got, while the actual mace is slamming down this way, and the drum itself is almost shattering, which, is a theme of Elden Ring, but under the weight of his might and power. And you've got all these rocks flying in all these directions. So you've got the musical theme, and then it also is, taken straight from the game itself. As you might have seen from my other color studies here, I did also make, because the Deathloop one has like jacket covers for each disc that there is. They've got multiple sleeves here, right? So I decided to take one of the Elden Beast as well, because they're a part of the same fight. And then he's got maybe like a harp or something like that, because now it's been so long since I made this and since I played the game, but I think there's like a nice, harp being strummed or something like that in the Elden Beast's theme song, right? When it's kind of just a very it's a few notes, it's very light, but that always stuck out to me. I don't think I ever fact checked if it was a harp, but that's what it sounded like to me. And I thought it'd be cool to have, because the Elden Beast kind of swims through his arena, right? And so I thought it'd be cool to have him in a sort of wrapping himself around in a very dreamlike swimming-ish motion around the harp itself. And then I wanted to connect them through their colors somehow. So you already have the sort of bright, harsh red against the yellow. And then I went with my, yellow and purple idea from here, and then explored. I guess I explored kind of closer to a blue almost than a purple originally, but found myself back really liking the mostly bombastic yellow mixed with, complemented by some of the purple. Because again, it's you see this and you feel the energy, and I would see this on a store, right? Realistically, in a music store, and this would just stick out to me. And so that's the same thing as I wanted this would stick out to me, a lot more than this. And that's basically the Elden Beast. I just, wanted to mimic the same energy and bombast as Radagon, but since they're kind of two halves of the same boss fight, I thought it'd be cool to include it. And then I wanted to include an instrument heard in the song, and then also capture the sort of movement and elegance of the Elden Beast. And then kind of finally, last but not least, real quick, this was just the other boss kind of found in that same arena, right? Is Marika. She and Radagon are two halves of the same whole, right? And she's seen the opening cutscene whenever you see him, right? She's on the Elden Ring crucifix. And so I thought it'd be a fun idea to take an instrument like the triangle. I don't know if the triangle actually appears in any of the songs though. And have the crucifix that she's on, instead of it being that sort of crescent shape, it's the instrument, the triangle. And then once again, connecting all three of these together with that yellow color. And then now having a kind of a bright blue being the base of her body, and then having her being illuminated by the yellow. But ultimately, I didn't feel like it fit as well. These two make sense. They're the actual boss fight. Having the base be red and then having him be lit up by the yellow energy makes sense. He's got the yellow stuff going through his body, but also it all seems to be emanating from this as a light source. The Elden Beast itself does have a bluish, purplish sort of inner body, so it makes sense why that is here. Marika herself, I don't know if there's not really a reason why she's being lit up by the yellow. I can't remember if there was a triangle even played in any of the songs, so ultimately I felt like it was a lot weaker of a design, but still a fun idea to have her being strung up by the triangle instrument. This is just me covering some of the older projects that I worked on and putting them on my channel as well. So if you like this, go check out some of the other ones. I'm going with a more freeform version again, just because I was trying to do a more edited version, but it was taking so long to get those videos out, and the views weren't all that different from my just long form ramble style videos. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to subscribe if you want to check out some other stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.